Hey, good morning and good afternoon. Um, I'm doing pretty good here. Um, it's been last week was the longest week of my life. Um, I know some of you have had parents, loved ones, and even yourselves have gone through what I've gone through. And um, all I can say is uh, I'm glad to be feeling better. Hope to be back real soon. And I appreciate y'all doing as good as you've done and getting your work done, keeping up with the ancient Greece material. And test day is coming. Test day is Wednesday. So we're going to go through the study guide right now. If you will get your study guides out, we're going to highlight, I'm going to tell you the things to study for the test and the types of questions that are going to be there. And make sure that you send a remind if you have any questions about anything else, if you're not sure about it. Your study guides will need to be turned in um, the day we test, whether they're turned uh, in the trays or turned in on computer. If you have difficulty with that, let me know. You can email them. Hopefully the turn-in box will work on Google Classroom. Let's see. Let's look at our study guide. I'm going to give you numbers and topics. First of all, we know that there will be a general geography description of ancient Greece. Make sure you know it's mountainous, peninsula design, created a lot of separation between the peoples, people with the same language, the same basic history, but everything was different with the god or goddesses that were a priority to them. Different types of governments, and geography played a large role in that. Number 2, Acropolis is going to be a matching question. Number 3, Aegean Sea will also be a matching question. And then we're going to go all the way down to number 10. Okay, where were we? Phone call got interrupted. We're going to go all the way down to number 10, Macedonia. Now, Macedonia, back behind my head, you need to definitely know was the home of Philip II, the father of Alexander the Great. That could be on the test more than one place. Number 12, Athens. I have 3 marks by this, which means 3 questions are associated. Definitely map questions. You need to know that the cities like Corinth, Argos, Athens, Sparta were all Greek city-states. You need to also know matching wise that it was the home of democracy. You need to know, that's the only things I can think of right now, but Athens will be on the test. Parthenon will be a matching question. And Sparta, I have at least 5 marks by it. I know there are two questions that compare Athens and Sparta. And the questions will do multiple comparisons. If you will remember that document that you did, that did the T-chart, that did government types, it did, it compared military, and it compared marriages, family life, those kind of things. You need to know that there are several questions to do with Sparta on there. So on your Greek periods, one of them, Age of Pericles, will be matching. That's number 16, Age of Pericles. And then number 20, Greek Dark Age, has a good multiple choice question on it, several descriptions, make sure you know them. Hellenistic Age, number 21, has 2 questions on it. You got to know the Hellenistic Age spread Greek ideas, Greek architecture, Greek everything Greek, all over most of the known world. And it was done by Alexander the Great. And there's also a question on Minoans and there will be a questions on the Mycenaeans. They were very warlike people. Early Greek city-states. They may have conquered the Minoan capital on the island of Crete. So those are on there. There are not any direct questions on Zeus, Achilles, or Odysseus. I do have 2 questions on Homer. Pay attention on this one. You need to know that Homer taught the value of courage, honor, and excellence to the Greeks. If it hadn't been for this blind poet writing down his stories, the Iliad and the Odyssey, and helping invent a Greek alphabet for the Greeks to write things down, you would not have, the Greeks would not have known of their historic past and been inspired by it. So Homer played a very large role. There's also a matching question on Homer. Now on Socrates, number 29, some of these questions will have to do with quotes. And maybe a quote that every one of y'all saw is that, to know that Socrates said a quote, something to the effect of an unexamined life is not worth living. And I know most of you probably didn't choose that as one of your top 3 quotes, but it's been one of the most influential quotes throughout history. And an unexamined life, that means, do you understand why you're here? Do you understand that purpose, reason, ability, that you're simply not living a life haphazardly, that you should have a purpose and intent to life? And I'm going to tell you, after this disease, I've never believed anything more true. And I want you to contribute that to Socrates. Was he a real person, not mythological? It had to be. Too much influence on so many different people. Very tragic ending to his life, yet he knew what he was about. He knew he was a flawed person, but one of my favorite things that I really regret not being able to share with y'all are your 3 favorite quotes on our philosophers. And I hope, like anything, that you actually put your heart and soul into that particular project and learn something that you can take with you throughout life. Plato has a matching quote. I will also tell you right now, for those of you who pay real close attention to this, that Plato did a very important writing called The Allegory of a Cave, Allegory in a Cave. And I think I'm probably going to share a video on that. It is one of the most important things he did as a writing. He was the founder of the School of Athens, very educated, very important. But I hope and pray, like anything, you have time one of these days to study Allegory in a Cave and be able to get to its purpose and intent. So now we're going to jump down to scientists and famous Greek people. Number 38, Hippocrates. Hippocrates is a matching question, the Greek founder of medicine. 39, Pythagoras. I think most of y'all know what he's important for. Very important math formulas, among other things. Let's go to Greek, number 42. The founder of Athenian democracy, according to your textbook, is number 42, Clisthenes. And that will be on the test. And there's some really good choices there. Draco, Eratosthenes, Pericles, Solon, but you want to pick Clisthenes as founder of Athenian democracy there. Number 47, Herodotus, has 2 questions on this test. You know, he's the father of history of Western civilization. You know, he recorded the history of the Persian Wars. Now, on military leaders, Xerxes will be a matching question. Number 52, Philip II of Macedonia will have a question. And there'll be a couple of questions on 53, Alexander the Great, the fact that he is responsible for spreading Greek culture. And there was a very interesting quote said about him that even influenced people later on, like Julius Caesar. And one of these quotes about Alexander the Great, underneath a statue, says, "He wept, for there were no more worlds to conquer." That is something that I want you to associate with Alexander the Great. Again, I miss not getting to be with you and talk to you about pathos, a longing, a regret, a desire that was so strong in little Alex that it's what drove him to literally conquer the world. It is something that is innate, that you're born with, that your teachers inspire you to. And Alexander the Great was a tremendous, tremendous individual because he had such a great education and upbringing. And there are so many stories. I hope you enjoyed the Engineering an Empire video. And if we get to come back and have more time, I may talk to you more about it. Now, one of the most important parts of the test will be Greek battles and war terms. The Battle of Marathon will be asked twice, at least twice on the test. It is certainly a matching question as well. And of course, it was a Greek victory. It was one of the early Greek victories over the Persians, primarily the Athenians. You know, the Spartans did not participate in it. And also on the Battle of Thermopylae has 2 questions on it. You know, that was actually a Greek loss, but probably helped them win the war. Definitely 2 questions on that. It's the famous story, of course, of the 300. And I sure enjoyed watching that with you before I got sick. Battle of Salamis was a Greek naval victory. And you also need to know that there was one not on your study guide called Plataea. Plataea was also a Greek victory, and it was the one that where Xerxes actually left some commanders behind, packed the rest of the boats up and left, and the Greeks defeated them to remove the Persians from Greek soil. So other questions. Number 58, Peloponnesian Wars. You need to know that these wars were fought between Greek versus Greek, city-state versus city-state. They were centered around Sparta and its allies versus Athens and her allies. Now, Athens lost. Their city was laid siege to, was conquered. This was at the time of Socrates and some of that stuff. So if you want to place it in context. And the Spartans took over the city, temporarily suspended its government. Plague had wiped out much of its populations. But the most important thing about the Peloponnesian Wars is that it weakened all the Greek city-states, which eventually allows and leads to the Macedonians from the north being able to come in and conquer each Greek city-state and unify them under their leadership. That is what's important about the Peloponnesian Wars. 59, hoplites. There's 2 questions on that. Hoplites are Greek foot soldiers, and there's a matching question on that as well. And then 61, a trireme. Those are the boats that were used by the Greeks, 3 banks of oars, many on each side, and make sure you know what they look like. To continue on down, we have number 63, Iliad and Odyssey. You need to know that they inspired the Greeks, that it was written by Homer, and they are, of course, considered epic poems. So Iliad and Odyssey will be on the test. 65, Agora is a matching question. 66, Democracy, Athens, Democracy is definitely on the test. 72, now, your book has a definition for this, and I don't know if you found it, but if you're not, you better pay attention to. 72, the definition for Spartan is to be highly self-disciplined, and that will be on the test. So 73, a helot, these were the agricultural workers for Sparta. 75, an oligarchy, this was the Spartan form of government. An oligarchy is where a few leaders rule the rest of the population. 77, Epicurus and Epicureanism is on the test. You need to know that its definition. 78, Stoicism, living in the will of God. Happiness is the goal of life for both of them. But 78 and 77, they're back to back. So yeah, make sure you know those well. 80, Socratic method. Make sure you have a good definition for that. That will be on the test. 82, on the ancient Olympics, there be maybe more than one question on that. You need to know also that besides this was a gift of ancient Greece to us and other civilizations, you know, some other gifts by ancient Greece would be trial by jury. Excuse me. Of course, democracy. There are so many things that the ancient Greeks gave us. Now, there is one term that's a matching term that I know our little movie that we watched together in class talked about, but it's not on your study guide, a hoplon. You remember what a hoplite is? That's a Greek infantry soldier, but a hoplon was its shield, and make sure you know it's a Greek shield. And as far as that goes, I believe that covers your study guide. Now, if you have any questions, make sure that you contact me. If not, you need to study. You can, of course, watch this video more than once. And turn in your study guides the day you test. Your tests are already printed. They're on my desk. You are going to take it as a paper copy. If for some reason you were stuck at home because of COVID, please let me know, and I will ask that again on Remind, and so I can load it just for you. We're going to have to make some extra precautions to make sure that the test is fair for everyone. So, but the test will be a paper test. And I can tell you right now, there are a couple of questions. You can see a Greek map behind me. It's very difficult for me to point to stuff. For example, if you go way up here, right above my finger, you see that is that little opening, the Hellespont. And of course, Athens is right above me, and the little island of Salamis, and the battle plain of Marathon and Plataea. There's going to be a map question on the test, and you need to know that it was associated with Greek battle sites. There is also one of my favorite things I used to do in class is there is a writing from the histories from Herodotus in Book 7, where he talks about Xerxes being very angry with the waters of the Hellespont. He called it a river, and you can see how narrow it is through there. The water moves very fast, and when he was building his pontoon bridge across to march his army across, the first bridge was destroyed in a storm, and he blames the waters of Hellespont in this little writing that you're going to read, and that is from Book 7 from Herodotus called the Histories. And he basically punishes the water. And one of the things I always like to talk about is why did he believe that by branding the water and spanking the water. He actually takes his belt off and hands it to one of his generals, who then lashes the water 100 times with Xerxes' belt. And then they call for branding irons, and they heat these branding irons up, and then they brand the water. And here's hundreds of thousands of soldiers sitting around on a hillside watching this stupid ceremony go on. And you're like, why on earth would Xerxes do this, knowing that water doesn't feel pain? There's a pretty good answer to that. And the reason why is he is punishing the water, not because he believes that it'll change the gods' minds, but he's letting the soldiers know, I'm doing this to inanimate objects. Can you imagine what I'm going to do to you if you disappoint me? The other practical thing that he does during this time is he beheads all the engineers that built the first pontoon bridge that fell apart. He lops their heads off in the water, lets their blood run into the water, and then he hires new engineers and says, please don't disappoint me. And you can imagine that had a very large impact. Many of the soldiers, when they saw disasters after disaster happen to them on their travels, would have begun to think that the gods were against them. And that is one of the most important things that the Persians and the Greeks have. They both are peoples of faith. And the belief that God's on your side has always been one of the most important impacts in all of world history. The American Civil War, both sides believed that Jehovah God was on their side, and you saw how soldiers acted and reacted to that. But the ancient Greeks truly believed that the gods of Mount Olympus were on their side. And the Persians, fearful of the invasion of Greece, and as they began to see evidence of Poseidon and Zeus and Athena and Apollo all lining up against them, that Xerxes had to keep a very tight rein on his people so that they would not lose heart. And, we saw in the video, even with the Battle of Thermopylae, that Greece believed the gods would ultimately help them win. And I think you can actually see as the Persians start to lose battles, and even with their win at Thermopylae, began to believe that the gods are truly against them. And that belief always creates history. And Destiny teaches us that our history is created from what we believe. I wrote that a long time ago. And I hope to see you soon. I even hope maybe I can see you on Wednesday. No guarantees. And take care of your families. Stay healthy. Stay smart. Eat right. Love your history. Love your friends. And we'll see you soon. Bye.